All right. Coming into your living rooms and over your car radios, it's Chris Brown, Steve Tasker with you after day 6 of training camp here at St. John Fisher. Coming to you live after another edition of practice on an absolutely spectacular sunsplash day here in Pittsford.
It's perfect.
75 degrees.
Perfect, Brownie.
I mean, the last 2 days, not a bead of sweat on this brow watching practice. That's glorious.
You know,
that is rare.
Yeah, you got into the shade, too. You get into the shade, it's like, wow, it's almost, you can put a sweater on almost. Yeah, it's nice. Oh, it's just perfect.
Yeah, so perfect. It was great. Day 6, I would say probably to a large extent, belonged to the defense. Pass rush, Steve, noticeable on more than a few occasions for the 3rd consecutive day. Sunday it was noticeable. Yesterday it was noticeable. Today, pass rush impacting throws in the passing game by the offense. Hurried throws off the back of the foot, by quarterbacks. They're getting the ball off, but under duress, and it's made a difference. In impacting the Bills' passing game, or at least the consistency of it. And, people are asking, well, who's getting home? How does Leonard Floyd look? And how does this guy look and everything? Do you know the 2 guys who keep flashing the most? Shaq Lawson and Shane Ray. Mm-hmm. They're both running second team right now, and they are consistently getting in the backfield. It's been nothing short of impressive from those 2.
Yeah, and it's been fun to watch, just – even Josh is like he's trying to hop and throw and and he, like today his foot got stepped on in the pocket and he sidearmed a frustration pass. It's like 9,000 miles per hour, 30 yards away, and Steph right in his chest. So it's kind of cool because I'll say this too: the offensive line is going to be better because of it. The defensive line is going to be better because of it. Everybody's going to be better. Pass rush affects so many other aspects of your game. Of the team and the game and how they progress, maybe more so than any other group. Yeah. You know what I mean? Your offense. You can say your offensive line, and maybe if you can run the ball, all that. But man, oh man, you got a pass rush. Your offense is going to benefit because they're going to get that other team off the field. You're going to get more chances at the pie. You're going to get more turnovers because of it. Everything happens when your pass rush is dominant, and I'm not saying the Bills are going to have a dominant pass rush, but all this is done without a guy who's going to the Hall of Fame, Von Miller. He's still waiting to get in there. So, yeah, they are really, really looking good at this point in camp, and they've affected a lot of plays.
We will also make mention of some position competitions to some degree. We heard that Brandon Beane on a national radio show talked about how Tyrel Dodson and Terrell Bernard were looking really good through the first week of the practice sessions. He said, I don't want to discount what Balin Spector has done. He's done a nice job, but those 2 guys have stood out to him. Today, based on the way the rotation was supposed to go at middle linebacker, each of those 3 candidates has been rotating through with the first team. Today was supposed to be Balin Spector's day, and today it was Tyrel Dodson. So it went Dodson Sunday, Bernard yesterday. It was supposed to be Spector today. It was Dodson. Now, we'll see what happens on Thursday because they're off tomorrow. But has the middle linebacker competition been whittled down to 2 candidates? I think it's possible.
Maybe. I think it's a little early for it because, we'll see. But there's nothing that says it couldn't be either, I don't know how much they've seen. I think I've had 1 padded practice. Two padded practices, and not all 3 guys have had a practice yet. We'll see. Depends. There's so much we don't know. But, yes, if you're keeping track of the rotation's off today.
Yeah.
And that's
so what that means, we'll have to wait and see.
Right.
But it could be an indicator going forward. We heard from secondary coach John Butler, who addressed the media prior to practice today. And he was asked about the cornerback 2 competition, and he talked about the 3 players who remain in the mix: Dane Jackson, Christian Benford, Kyer Elam. And what do we see today? Kyer Elam again getting more first-team reps. I would say more than the other 2 today. So where is that competition? I still think it's very much up in the air, and even John Butler said, Steve, that he says they have a long way to go in determining, who's the guy at CB2. But there's also this. I asked John Butler today when he was addressing the media, your team under Sean McDermott has a history of platooning cornerbacks. They did it last year with Benford and Elam in the season opening game. Benford started, he played 2 series, and then Kyer would rotate on for a single series. And then Benford on for 2, Kyer on for 1. And that continued through the first month of the season for the most part. They've done it before that. When that veteran from Houston, Kevin Johnson, was here for a year, he rotated and platooned with Levi Wallace. So there is history here of platooning corners. So I asked John Butler, if someone does not definitively separate himself from the other two, could you foresee a platoon situation again at corner? And he did admit that in the past they've done that. It sounded to me that it's not an ideal situation, and he explained why. He said, look, we have guys that are out there at the start of the game. They get a feel for what happened on that series, and then we take them out. The guy going in has no feel for what's happened to that point in the game, let alone playing off the other 3 or 4 guys in the secondary. So there is some risk involved to platooning players, but if nobody separates himself from the competition that, hey, I'm the guy and I deserve 65 snaps a week, they may platoon. He left the door open.
It always gives you that idea that because it's not too much, it's usually too little, not too many guys, you got too few guys, right? So it's hard for people to sit there and say, oh, now you're going to tell me you got 3 starting corners. Elam and Benford can both go along with Tre'Davious White and Dane Jackson. You can't pick between any of those guys, and the simple fact of the matter is the best case scenario is that they're all playing really well. But it's like the old thing: if you got 2 quarterbacks, you ain't got any. Somebody needs to step up and be a starting cornerback for the Bills. Tre'Davious White certainly is, and has proven his worth there, and now he's having a really good camp. Why aren't those other guys having good camps? Because they're getting talked about a little bit. Only because of the competition they're in. Mm-hmm. And you see them flash once in a while, but all of them make a play here and there. That's what you worry about, though. This whole corner competition and the middle linebacker competition too. If you don't have one that you can really decide on, do you really have any?
A guy that does appear to be making a move in a competition is Osiris Torrance. Mm-hmm. 3rd straight day getting the most action at right guard. 3rd straight day.
That's more than a trend.
That's a move.
Yes.
He's made a move.
I think it is. And that's the thing. They're making these decisions at other positions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and let's remember this too. I think this is a factor in that particular competition. It's basically Torrance and Bates that are battling. I think David Edwards is veteran insurance in case the whole thing goes up in smoke.
Fine.
So it's essentially a 2-man position battle. You and I have talked on this show and on our podcast, Bills by the Numbers, which will have a new episode out later this week, just as a programming note. The fact that there is a shift in philosophy with what this team wants guard to guard. Bigger, heavier, so they can run more effectively between the tackles. Just by virtue of that philosophy, things would appear to lean in favor of Osiris Torrance, who goes 6'4", 325, when Ryan Bates goes 6'3", barely 300. From that standpoint alone. Then you roll in the fact that if you want it to be Torrance, get him as many reps as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, because that guy's going to be a rookie starting in this league. He can't get enough reps. So if you have to make a decision there, that's one of the first decisions you're making in position battles. I mean, at least you have reps for Kyer, Benford, and Jackson all in this league. So you can maybe wait a little longer on that one, as opposed to Osiris. If you want to go with Osiris, get him in there now and get him as many reps as you can.
That's right. That makes some sense to me. It certainly does not speak to where they were last year with James Cook. It doesn't speak to where they are this year with Dalton Kincaid. But that makes some sense. And I think more than anything, I don't know. When they make a move like that, I think they've made a decision. Not just. I don't think it's that much experimentation anymore.
Yeah.
You know. Now they're certainly still going to evaluate, what's going on across the board. Like for instance, you're right. This Shane Ray and Shaq Lawson.
They flashed.
They're moving up. So, somebody's moving down when those guys move up, right? And so that's what you're with this Osiris Torrance. Bates is not going to get as many reps, or he's not going to get as many reps with versus quality opponents, whatever. The problem is this: when you get guys like Benford, Kaiir Elam, and Dane Jackson. On the outside, it's different because when they rotate those guys go against all levels of competition all the time because they're doing one-on-ones. They're going against Steph Diggs. They're going against, Shorter. They're going against, Aitman, Sherfield. They're going against Patman, Shavers, and also going against Hardy and Davis and Diggs. All those corners roll through there because there's 13 wideouts and there's only like 6 corners. Right? So those guys get reps and one-on-ones against all those guys. Don't know that that's the case with the guards and, with the offensive guards and what the rotation is on the defensive line across from them. Plus, we still have only been through 2 practices with pads on. So there's a lot of rotation going on where some of these guards haven't gone against every defensive tackle yet in a live drill. So some of this stuff is just logistics and how it works out and the logistics of how this all comes together. They're not going to get reps at certain spots, so they'll rotate the positions differently for the guards than they do with the wide receivers, and the linebackers differently than they do with the defensive tackles and so on. So, you know what I mean? I don't know if that was kind of convoluted, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Did I make it clear?
I understand.
All right.
And I hope our listeners understand, too. Among some other observations, pass breakups were plentiful today as defenders were getting hands in the passing lanes. Cam Lewis had another solid day. We'll get into him in a second. Tyrell Dodson with a pass breakup. I think the part of Dodson's game that needed to show improvement was in matching up in coverage. And through the first week of camp, he's got about 3 or 4 pass breakups already. Those are encouraging signs for the most veteran of the candidates in the middle linebacker competition. And then Matt Milano with the play of the day. He carries Dalton Kincaid one-on-one, man coverage, down the field, 20 yards to the boundary, and breaks up a pass. I mean, it was an all-pro play. With the camp that Kincaid has had so far, to get 20 yards downfield and out-jump him to knock the ball away, I guess those leg workouts do count for something, huh?
I guess. Good for,
that was an all-pro play.
You like to see that from your best players. And Matt Milano he's not just this guy, the Buffalo Bills fan. We kind of like him.
He's a stud.
Right. From the get-go, he's been on the field, and people are like, yeah, he's playing good. They're kind of liking him and stuff. He's kind of under the radar. Then he goes to the Pro Bowl. Then he's all pro. It's like
first team all pro.
He's like a guy. He's a dude now. He's not just Buffalo's own Matt Milano.
Yeah.
He's like belongs.
He's
to,
everybody's.
He's
Matt
like
Milano.
Yes, he belongs to the NFL now, and in training camp that was a little bit of a flex. I'm sure
that was the play of the day. I felt not that Gabe Davis did not make a big play. There weren't a ton of big plays on offense today because, as we said, the pass rush was a thing
wrecking
again.
Everybody's day.
But Gabe Davis on a lightning rope throw from Josh Allen. It was the kind of throw that probably only about 3 or 4 other quarterbacks in this league can make from the far hash to the far sideline, 20 yards down the field. Gabe Davis gets enough separation, catches it in stride, and then eludes the safety down the sideline for what would have amounted to like a 70-yard touchdown. And this is the 3rd straight day now. I told you yesterday, Gabe Davis is picking up steam. He's rolling now. I mean, he's like a freight train going downhill. I think he's really feeling himself. And to me, maybe it's because of the ankle injury last year. I know I noted this to you yesterday, that his legs look more muscular from top to bottom. I don't know if he's squatting 700 pounds now or something, but the squats are paying off because he looks faster to me. Like significantly faster off the line, faster out of the stem of his routes, and faster after the catch. And I think it's why he's putting together some big plays. And the reason why I say that, Steve, is it's not 60 yards through the air, make the catch. It's 20 yards through the air and run 40.
Right.
There's more rack yards with Gabe and the big plays he has made the last 3 days in camp, which is encouraging because we've heard, hey, we need more rack yards. We need more rack yards. Ken Dorsey talked about it. Sean McDermott talked about it. A couple of the receivers have talked about it. We're seeing some of that now.
Yeah, and I think I've said it before, and we've talked about it at length about, the Bills have always, with Josh as their quarterback, have not been good at run after catch. I think one of the things is they asked Josh to make some throws, and Josh decides to make throws where a guy's in traffic, which means, he's not getting out of it after he catches it. And another thing is where they come up and they find an area and he sticks the ball right on them rather than leading them out away from the defense. And, and I think Dorsey does it, and I know Daboll did it. The play design is such that Josh is good at some stuff. They ask him to do a lot, and they keep away from other stuff, not because he's not good at it, but because he's so good at everything else. Let's not have him loft this ball up with some touch over and under and feather it in there. Let's just make the completion and stuff. I think they ask him to make throws that are different than they might ask somebody else to make. And I think that's partly by design. I think that's partly by giving him stuff that he's been good at since he's been a young player. Certainly he can make better throws now. He can do some stuff now that he couldn't do when he came in the league. We all know that. But I think that's it more about yak, run after catch, than the receivers or whatever. Because these receivers, they grow up catching it and running after the catch. It's instinctive. You can't. If you catch a ball in an NFL game, you are running for your life because the ball is a violence magnet. So it's instinctive. You're running as fast as you can with it. So I think there's other factors in play about the run after catch that don't have as much to do with guys like Gabe, Shakir, Diggs, even Kincaid and Knox. Josh, I just don't see where there have been a lot of times when they've missed an opportunity to get yak, get run after catch.
Seem more conscious of it, almost.
Yeah, I just don't see it like that's been something that's like they've missed out on. You know what I mean? So I've got to think there's a different kind of reason for it. So I'm kind of.
Well, we've talked about how Josh has
talked about it.
Throws it in tight windows and puts it on people.
Well, when you catch it in a tight window, you're probably inside a room where the walls are collapsing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's part of it, no question. And no two throws, no two plays are alike. So you got to take it all nothing's in a vacuum. So I just think there is something in there where the team needs to, and I think Kincaid might have been a step in that direction in some ancillary way. Like, listen, let's get somebody who can catch it and is good at running with it after the catch.
We mentioned him already, but Cam Lewis, he's been here. This is his 4th year, I want to say. I don't know if I've seen 3 consecutive days from Cam Lewis that were as good as the last 3 that we've seen. Cam Lewis has stepped up in a big way in the Buffalo secondary, and it has earned him more playing time. He is rotating up on the depth chart at multiple positions. We know that he came into this league as a slot corner, because that's what he played at UB. And then last year, he got transitioned to safety. And now he's rotating up in the depth chart rotation. Jordan Poyer got a rest day, and Micah Hyde's reps were monitored today. I think they just kind of took some of the workload off him. Veteran players, you know what you're getting from them, pull off on their rep count. So he was afforded that opportunity for a couple of reasons. But he was the guy that rotated up. And they're moving him around, similar to the way they're moving around Taylor Rapp. And so I'm telling you, if that continues through the course of the preseason and he plays as well as he has practiced the last 3 days, he is a lock to be on this team because he's proving to be pretty valuable at more than one position, and he plays special teams. So Cam Lewis, who has always been a pretty sharp tack as a player on the mental side of the thing, he's been the most consistent day over day the last 3 days than I have ever seen him before in a Bills uniform.
Yeah, Cam Lewis ain't going anywhere. You know, he may.
His only fault, he's a little undersized, but smart player,
he's not going anywhere.
Versatile, and physically gifted in terms of speed and change of direction skills.
His size is the only thing that's holding him back, and that really doesn't hold him back. It just gives you some concern about a physical position. Cam Lewis is this generation's Levi Wallace. I mean, you may try to replace him, and the guys that come in here you bring in to replace him, they just can't get it done.
And I'm not saying he's going to roll out onto the field and start somewhere, but I think this guy is capable of backing up a couple of roles in the scope of this defense.
Yeah.
And he plays on special teams, so he's going to dress on Sundays.
That's right. He's going to get a game jersey.
Yes,
absolutely. On game day, he's going to be in there,
and I'm kind of happy for him because I mean that he's been toiling out of the spotlight for 4 years, and he's hung around, whether it's practice squad, active roster, player development here comes in again. This guy is not only proving to have value at the position he came from college at, but at another position as well. Why? Player development, Steve. Player development.
It also speaks highly of his intelligence.
Right.
When you get smart guys in there, and they have a greater sense of self-awareness, and he's looking around, he's going, I'm pretty good, but he does that better than me, and that guy does that better than me, and this guy's pretty good, and I don't know if that guy's pretty. How am I going to make myself valuable enough for the team to keep? Well, I could cover kicks and do this. You know, they just find ways to make themselves indispensable to a coaching staff. Cam Lewis has done that time and time again. He's carved out a really nice niche here, and there's no reason to think he's not going to continue that. How much he plays, Brownie, to me, depends on what happens around him.
Right. That's 100% right. Yeah, there's no debating that. That's kind of the gist. And maybe the thing that put a smile on people's faces more than anything today, second day in pads, Damar Hamlin with a pick 6. I mean, you want to talk about a feel-good moment. Holy cow.
Nice. Yeah.
That was it. Runs into the end zone, plays it up to the crowd. He's got 5 teammates running after him, patting him on the pads and the helmet. I mean, that was the feel-good moment of camp right there.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, he knew he's going to, do something. He's in too good a shape, too good a player not to show up some point. It'll be interesting to see if, I don't know how much playing time or whatever he's going to get in the preseason, but that'd be kind of cool to see him do something like that. Get on the field, flash at least for a minute,